you so much for joining me on Be Authentically You. This is your host, Tori Ball. I am so happy to be joining you again on this Monday, which is June the 18th. And we are 1 week out from this being the second recording for my show, but this is also live as well. So if you are listening, you definitely can call in to chime in on the topic tonight, which the station number is 781-448-0411. We're also on Streaming Inspiration Net, and we're also on Facebook for Women of Essence Network. So last week we discussed suicide, and I'm not sure if I left any numbers, but I'm going to give you those numbers if ever you or someone you know has a have needs a discussion or need to talk to someone or a therapist in reference to or crisis interventionist in reference to suicide, and you can text 741-741, and you can text that number and someone will talk to you by text, or either you can call the United States National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-TALK, which is 1-800-273-8255, or 1-800-SUICIDE. Those are the two those are the three numbers that you can call to get someone to have a conversation with you to discuss what is possibly going on with the person that you love, or either within yourself if you are having those thoughts, and need someone to talk to. So let me let you in on what this show is about. It's about co-parenting, and I decided to talk about co-parenting because it was a quote that I saw earlier today on Facebook in reference to co-parenting, and it's always particularly towards women in reference to co-parenting, to the point where don't use the children as a pawn, which I totally agree with, not to use children as a pawn, because that can be for both men and women, whoever has the children, but to also have a shared communication with your children when you are able to do so. However, what bothered me in reference to this quote or this picture that I saw on Facebook was that how would you know if the relationship is a cohesive relationship to co parent? My one thing that I would like for people to think about, maybe not one thing, but many things that I would want people to think about, but this one particular thing is, how would you know if the relationship was not a domestic violence relationship? Domestic violence does not necessarily mean that the person was physically abused. They could have been spiritually abused. They could have been psychologically abused. They could have been financially abused, or either they could have several of those abuses occur in a relationship where there's a child. It goes back to me having a discussion with a young lady that I knew. It was in an inbox Facebook conversation because she was dealing with a dilemma of co-parenting. And what I have to say to women and men alike, when you're posting things on Facebook, how does it proceed to someone who has survived domestic violence? And the one thought that came across my mind is that, how would someone perceive this message on Facebook when it comes to co parenting? Co-parenting comes in many forms. It comes in a cohesive relationship where the both parents have decided that we're going to work together as grown adults, and we're going to work together to be friends for the children. But there is also co-parenting when you're involving someone else, like a step parent or a fiance that you're about to get married. It could be for a man, woman. It can be for a same gender relationship, or either it could be the maternal or paternal grandparents that have to co-parent because something might have happened, or either the parent is away in a service or either away on a job, and they're allowing the other person to co-parent. But what I want people to understand is that not all people have the luxury to co-parent. So I received this quote off of a Facebook site that states being a step parent is not about being better than someone else. It's simply about being the best role model and parent you can be. Now, as parents, we all have those moments where we think we have screwed the child up or we have ruined the relationship, but parenting does not come with books. It comes through trial and error. So, that relationship that has the co parenting also has to come with trial and error basis and things of that sort where you are not thinking about a relationship anymore. You're thinking about what's best for the child. And on the aspect of domestic violence that I'm going to talk about is because of the co parenting, it can be quite difficult for a woman or a man to co parent with the abuser because they have not gotten past the abuse that have occurred in that relationship. It could have been that the parent was physically and verbally abusive, so they're trying to protect their child from the abuse that they've received, or either they don't want to have the same thing occur to them. So, in that instance, I ask people to clearly think about when we're talking about co parenting, is it best that maybe the parent think about it a little bit more or either have a third party come into being unbiased in relations to helping both of the parents out to be able to work to a common ground to co-parent, or is it that people will have to get to the point where they grow up or they get grown about their business when it comes to children to co-parent and be the best parent that they need to be? So for my moms and my dads or step parents out there that have good co-parenting relationships, I just implore you to help someone that might be struggling with the co-parenting when it comes to a former relationship, or either if you're in a co-parenting relationship where you are the step parent, would it be best to have that open dialogue with both parents to see what could be the common goal, or if there could be any of that sort where I've known other parents to have a parent that left and they don't want to be bothered with the child, and the child is constantly asking, where is my mom or where is my dad? What do you do in that situation? So if you have a comment or question, you can definitely reach out to me on Facebook on Tori Rogers Ball, or either you can link up with me on my DMs with Tori Inspires blog and you can respond to that, or either you can call and we can have that discussion. And my number at the station is 781-448-0411. So the co-parenting, I want you to think about yet again is one, what do you do in a situation where you have clearly a domestic violence situation that's going on, or either a previous domestic violence situation where the co-parenting has to stop, or either the people have gone past that and they come to a common ground to co-parent together for the best interest of the children. While we're on break, you can think about that. And when we come back, we will discuss that relationship when it comes to the growth of it or not. So we will be back in 3 minutes. And I hope that you thought about that. Thank you so much. and thank you for coming back to join Be Authentically You with your host Tori Ball. And we're talking about co-parenting today because of a post that I saw on Facebook that kind of bothered me when it comes to women in co-parenting. I don't want the sole responsibility of co-parenting to be always on the woman, but the co-parenting should be on both parents. So with co-parenting, I have 10 tips for co-parenting that might be realistic that someone can basically use. So the first tip for co-parenting that I found is in keeping an exact schedule of visitation. So when it comes to a situation where a parent is a little bothered, where they're not comfortable with meeting the other parent because of a former domestic violence situation, you can have a set location. You can have exact visitation hours and days. You can also have a third party that both of you trust and honor to agree to assist both of you to have a schedule and visitation hours. And I brought this up to the young lady that inboxed me because a co-parenting schedule is a great thing when you're not comfortable physically and mentally with the person. If you are in a relationship and you trust that everything will be okay to exchange your children, that could be a possibility to have a planned schedule for your children to spend time with the other parent and make sure that you keep it. So, moving on with number two, speak positively about and don't badmouth the other parent. And that's something that both parents must learn to include the other spouse or either the fiance, to not bad mouth the other parent in front of your kids because it will look bad upon the person that's doing the bad talking. So always speak kind words, or either if you don't know what to say that's kind, just don't say anything at all. So when you're discussing in reference to the other parent, make sure that your kids are not in what they perceive to say grown folks' business, because then that child will take that back or they'll think something negatively about it. Tip number three is remember that parenting is forever. So, regardless if your children are young or they get older and they graduate, go to college, they get married or have children themselves, you will still be the parent. You will still see the other parent. It just is at a different phase in life with the other child. So, just know that parenting is always forever. You're not going to never be a parent ever again when they get older. Tip number four is know and use emotional etiquette when talking to an ex within earshot of your child. So if the argument is getting very heavy and it's not going to be a cohesive relationship or a cohesive discussion, just conclude the conversation. Don't add any other stress or any other issues while your child is in earshot of the conversation, and just either one, walk away if it gets too emotional, or either two, just let the other parent know that, hey, I don't want to further discuss this. Let's wait till another time to discuss this when children are not around, and then pick up the conversation, or either let it have a cooling off period. The number five tip for co-parenting is to have the child should not experience or partake in negative feelings about the ex. So you keep your child and the emotions out of any further adult relationships. Your children are already adversely affected by a divorce or separation without adding any stress. Just make sure that they're being a child, living in a child environment, and making sure that they're happy and having happy thoughts, so you will want them not to have any negative adverse effect during a divorce or separation, or when the other parents are in another relationship. Your sixth tip is children should not be pumped for information about other parents after a visit. So, this right here is where other parents are asking their children series of questions when they visit the other parent. If you're asking a child any questions in reference to the other household, The only question that a parent should ask a child when they're going from another house to your house is to make sure that they're not inappropriately touched, that they're getting fed, and that they're being taken care of. Do not pump your child for any further information in reference to the other person's household, what they have in the house, who visits them. But you want to make sure that their safety is the number one top priority. The eighth co-parenting list is to check with other parents about clothing and needed supplies. This is just making sure your child has everything that they need, that they're comfortable when they visit the other parent's household, and that they're being fed. But it does not allude to you pumping them for information that is none of your concern, just making sure that they're fed and they're safe in their own home. The ninth co-parenting tip is to keep promises to your children. And I always state this to my kids is that if I'm going to take you somewhere or I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure that I do it. So this is for both moms and dads, is to make sure when you promise your children something, make sure that you keep the promise and you're not telling them one thing and then you can't do it. If you know for a fact that you're not going to be able to do it, don't bring it up. Just wait until you're able to do it, and then you let them know, hey, we're getting ready to go here. For co parenting, and your last tip is to be on time. 15 minutes can seem like an entire afternoon for a young child. Make sure that you're on time when you are meeting the other parent or the third party when you're dealing with co parenting because children, of course, their attention span is not as great as some adults. And I can say some adults do not have great attention spans. So make sure that you're on time for your kids. But in reference to co-parenting, it could be both. You have some men that are great parents and can co-parent with the mother, and take the head of household responsibility better than some women. And you have some women where it's vice versa, where they can be better parents to their children, but it's best when both parents co-parent together and you have a cohesive relationship. And whoever your spouse or your fiance may be, if they accept your children, that's great. However, parents also should pay attention to red flags when you're co-parenting. So I suggest that when you're in a relationship, you look at all those things to be able to better co-parent if it's with a divorce or separation. Yes, co-parenting can be tricky. However, when both parents come to the fact that it's about the children, you work as a cohesive unit to make sure your children have everything and you're not worried about whether or not someone's in another relationship or you're being vindictive about a relationship. You work together to be able to work and co-parent together. For co-parenting for crucial conversations, make sure you instill your values with your kids and make sure that you're not dealing with behaviors that could you know, disregard what you have in your household, such as bedtime routines during school and summertime. That also plays a part in co-parenting. And yes, it is now summertime where the kids are out of school. We have some jurisdictions that are still in school and some that are out. But while we are dealing with the summertime routine, some parents might have a little bit of leeway when it comes to kids, but it's also a crucial conversation when you're co-parenting. Also, the disciplinary rules, who's a disciplinarian, technology limitations. Those things also play into your co-parenting conversations when the children are going from home to home. So I'm hoping that this co-parenting discussion and this thought process of co-parenting has left an impression on you to consider and think about what you do when you co-parent with the other parent. Is it cohesive? Is it a great conversation? Do you need to start having those conversations? If you can't have that conversation, do you have someone that's unbiased and can assist both you and the parent in the co-parenting process? So I'm going to leave you with the last 5 minutes of the Motivational Monday for today. And that is, it is yet summertime. We're out here, we're being parents, we're going on travel. Make sure that when you are involved in the co parenting, whether you're in state with your kids, whether you're out state, If you're in the same household, co-parenting still exists when you're in a two-home relationship, when both parents are married or they're together. Co-parenting still exists whether or not you're together or you're divorced or separated. Just make sure that you both, as parents, are on the same page. You have the conversation with your children that we're working together to make sure that you're safe, you have fun, you have education, you have all your needs met. That's when you have that family discussion where it can be very cohesive and you're working together to make sure the children's summer is great and also the parents' summer is wonderful as well, although that we have to work. But regardless of however your Monday has started, make sure you end your Monday with prayer and a discussion and maybe a journal entry that can move you forward within your life. That way you can start making changes. So you can launch your life and launch your co-parenting with making a change. Make one change a day that says, I'm going to be a better parent. I'm going to be a better co-parent in a better co-parent relationship, but I'm going to make that change with deciding with myself what I'm going to do today and what I'm going to start doing tomorrow. And then as you work each day with a goal to be a better co-parent, you can be a better person with the other person that has to co-parent with you. And when they start seeing the change, maybe they'll make the change too to be a better co-parent. So I leave you with that thought, and I hope to see you all and hear from you all next Monday. And we'll have a different show. But thank you for joining Be Authentically You. This show is a space where we share discussions in reference to parenting, life, mental health, trauma, relationships, maybe some leadership. But I thank you so much for joining me for my 7 o'clock show. And I hope that you join me next Monday for the next show. Have a good evening, and thank you for joining Be Authentically You with your host, Tori Ball.